Hello everyone. I'm very happy to greet you all again. And as we continue with our training project in Guadalupan Pedagogy, properly speaking, we begin with the first illumination or Guadalupan capsule, which you can clearly find in this text. To go a little deeper, last time I quoted you from the Archdiocese of Mexico City. On pages 7 to 12, you will find what I am going to summarize in this topic. To begin our thematic development, or our frame of reference, the text suggests that we make a connection and presents the objectives to be developed in each of the chapters it proposes. Let me remind you that in the previous segment, we analyzed, delved into, discussed, or I made you realize that the mystique, which I will now call the culture, of the Guadalupano-Plancartino schools is fundamentally characterized by a Marian, specifically Guadalupan, identity. This distinctive trait, then, for a leadership that acts in a transformative way among children and youth must be something noticeable. And each of you has already done your own personal, positive, or transformative analysis, reviewing your actions and sharing them with some of your fellow colleagues or members of the educational community or your department. What we looked at last time already serves as a background or a bridge to be able to propose these new ideas that will help us build, step by step, the goal we have set for ourselves to bring the Guadalupano-Plancartino educational model into alignment, or to propose it, gradually discovering those characteristics of the Guadalupana pedagogy of the Blessed Virgin Mary that she brought to our society and our culture. I want to emphasize, based on this reminder of what I tried to propose to you last time, that now I am adding the word mysticism and the word culture. When we talk about a mysticism or something that stands out, for you and for me, it is part of our culture. When we define or try to understand culture, it is a way and a manner of relating to our peers. Our families have certain elements unique to our family culture. They have ways of understanding, ways of relating, ways of dressing, beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors that are unique to our families, that are unique to a society, and that are unique to a city. What we call culture, in a general and very concise way, to shed some light and help us take a step toward understanding this Guadalupan pedagogy, is that culture, when we talk about culture, we are referring to everything that characterizes us as individuals and as families, as educational communities, and as a society. Second, the distinctive character of Plancartine institutions or Plancartine schools. Last time, we talked about how the soul or essence is a trait that has a Guadalupan characteristic. Today, I want to expand on that perspective because devotion to Saint Mary of Guadalupe plays a fundamental role in what the Church owes her, especially regarding the building of community life and the process of evangelization throughout the world to the Blessed Virgin Mary. It is a Guadalupan devotion that has a name and a surname, but we must not forget, and here we will also emphasize this, that the journey of the entire Church is the journey of the Virgin Mary, who walked with the disciples in the time of Jesus after the resurrection at Pentecost, and for the whole world. That is what, in a certain way, we began to see with the general introduction to this course. But the most important thing is to remember, to emphasize today, that when we talk about mysticism, at times we have to refer to the fact that mysticism is a culture unique to the Guadalupan-Plancartine institutions, and secondly, that our devotion to Saint Mary of Guadalupe is rooted in the background that Saint Mary of Guadalupe is none other than the mother of Jesus, who is the Virgin Mary, who is the Mother of God, God and who is also our mother. By establishing a clear connection with what we have already seen, or the specific points I mentioned in the previous session and the last video, what exactly is it that we are aiming to achieve this time around? These two things that you see here as objectives through enculturation, the term enculturation, what the enculturation of the gospel, we aim to identify the nature of the foundations and the requirements of the process of enculturation of the gospel, what it refers to, what we mean when we talk about the enculturation of the gospel. And second, we must confront and address the various complex challenges that enculturation presents to the missionary disciple in the rapidly changing world of our modern time. But we must also consider the profound implications and deep meaning that the concept of enculturation holds for the dedicated teacher, the religious nun, the entire pastoral team, the specialized department of pedagogy, and indeed anyone currently working within a Guadalupan institution. Plan Cartina, you have this slide here that you can find, if I remember correctly, on page number 8 of your text. Based on these summary diagrams, I will develop the content that you can find on the pages I mentioned earlier. But in order to take the next step in understanding this Guadalupan pedagogy, we need to talk about these two terms that you will find in this box. Enculturation is the expression of the new evangelization. I repeat, enculturation is an expression of the new evangelization. When we collectively refer to the specific term new evangelization, what exactly do we mean in a modern context when we talk about the deeper significance of this new evangelization in our lives today? Well, it is the renewed proclamation of the gospel of Jesus Christ today. In other words, we're not talking about a different evangelization. We're not talking about a different gospel, nor about building an evangelical message based on other realities. No. When we talk about enculturation, or when we define enculturation as an expression of the new evangelization, by new evangelization, we mean evangelization today. It is the good news of Jesus Christ, true God and true man, today. And this comes from deep roots, taking into account both the lights and shadows of evangelization as it has been carried out up to now, and understanding the challenges and difficulties that today's world presents to us. In a word, the new evangelization is the gospel of Jesus for today's world. We refer to this powerful message of the gospel of Jesus Christ for today's modern world as the new evangelization, which presents us with entirely new challenges and complex new difficulties. But these specific challenges and difficulties are being confronted by faithful Christians, the dedicated proclaimers of the good news, the disciples and the missionaries of today, who also live and experience this present life that we deeply want to brightly illuminate and transform with the eternal gospel of Jesus Christ. Therefore, this specific term, the new evangelization, serves as a vital guide for us to truly understand the process of enculturation. This vision represents a culture built upon the profound words and the miraculous deeds of Jesus Christ. We must consider what Jesus said and what Jesus did, which is continuously presented to the modern world as the good news of the gospel. It reaches out to people today, and it has successfully reached people today by adopting the unique perspective that people in this modern age possess. It engages with a specific culture tailored for the men and women of today's society, so that we can effectively present to them this deep, life-altering transformation of our daily reality and the many complex challenges of today. This process starts from the authentic cultural values that Jesus himself has proposed to us, which we collectively call Christianity. And this enduring reality of Christianity has been faithfully proclaimed throughout history and has truly become a living force within the diverse cultures of the entire world. Inculturation is about how, little by little, it has been sown, as the term under the title suggests, by finding in each of the world's cultures that open themselves to the possibility of the good news of Jesus Christ, the seeds of that word, which is incarnate in our land, in our world, in our culture. This expression, the seeds of the word, means that there already is, or has been and continues to be, a link, an initial bridge for proclaiming that good news, for spreading and sharing what God has done in me, in men, in women, in societies, and in the different cultures that surround us. It's about discovering that there are already within those cultures certain elements of identification or initial bridges for proclaiming the whole truth that is Jesus Christ. These seeds of the word that are already present in cultures, in societies, in our environment, and that we find in the children and adolescents who come to our institution, we already find these values, these initial principles for proclaiming to them the whole truth of Jesus Christ. It's that encounter. That's the initial bridge where the gospel and individual culture and community culture meet. We call this initial encounter the process of evangelization today, which we refer to as the new evangelization. This initial process is called inculturation as an expression of the new evangelization. This encounter, therefore, between cultures and the good news of Jesus Christ is brought to each one of us and to the people we interact with. It serves to shed light on the mystery of God the Savior in our midst. How does it happen, and how has it happened? It has happened precisely as the church has understood it, and as God, the one you and I believe in, has proclaimed and shared it.
The good news is that He is not a distant God, not a God who created things, then washed His hands of them, went off to His heaven, and abandoned us to our fate.
The God in the good news you and I believe in is not a God who doesn't understand us or value us, who doesn't live among us, who doesn't listen to us, who doesn't see us, who doesn't know why. He is on another level. He is so divine that He seems far removed from our humanity. In Jesus Christ, we learn and know that by becoming flesh, by becoming human, He shares in every aspect of our human condition. He is not a distant God, but a God who is close, a God who lives with us, who shares with us, who becomes one of us. That is what we call the mystery of the incarnation. Again, the God you and I believe in is not a God we can identify as the creator of all things, who then abandoned His creation. The God who becomes incarnate in the second person of the Holy Trinity, our Lord Jesus Christ, means that you and I, from that point on, must pay attention to everyday life, to what happens, to the challenges and difficulties of daily life, and understand and address them as something that involves the incarnation. Therefore, we can say that in light of the incarnation, we can understand what the new evangelization and inculturation mean today. Because the process of incarnation means that in evangelization, we have to address the challenges and demands of how people see, think, and behave in today's world. This is what we mean by the phrase, reading the signs of the times. Jesus was born in the context of a Greco-Roman culture. Jesus came as the incarnate Word in a country we now call Israel, within the unique cultural characteristics of His time. Jesus is incarnated today as well, and we have to discover those seeds of the Word in order to evangelize and bring Jesus Christ as good news to what we now call the modern world. And this modern world presents itself and comes to us through its own characteristics, ways, manners, and behaviors, which we must reach with our evangelization. One way to do this is to condescend, to understand, to value, to respect what today's world offers us, and to stand in solidarity, especially with those whom today's world does not support, those whom today's world excludes, what Pope Francis calls the discarded. The discarded are not only material or peripheral, but also emotional discards. The discarded are those whom no one pays attention to. What we call incarnate evangelization means that we understand, care for, and try to recognize the good that exists, to acknowledge the good in today's cultures, those seeds of the word, to stand in solidarity with the poor, with those who don't understand, with the last, with the excluded, with people who need us in different ways. The incarnation means just that. But also, we must consider, when we talk about how the Christian church first began at Pentecost, during that vital phase of expanding, that the gospel was not only discovered as something essential that each of us needs to live out every day, but also that the profound joy of the gospel, which reaches deep into our hearts and our lives, is meant to be shared, becomes truly expansive, and is greatly enriched when we actively share it with others in our community. At Pentecost, the church understood that the gospel was not just for itself, but for the whole world. And it is that spirit of Pentecost that encourages us to understand and open ourselves to cultural expressions, to cultural values, and to propose values that arise from our encounter with Jesus Christ, so that these values help us proclaim a message with new methods and new languages. Those languages and methods that were characteristic of the time of the early church. Now, we have to put that same approach into practice. Those of us who are shaping Christian culture, the gospel made flesh and expansive through the spirit of Pentecost for today's world. We also need to understand this with these three characteristics that we can recognize throughout history. Evangelization is a slow process. As professional therapists, and I am a therapist myself, we often talk about two distinct ways to approach any given problem, especially if we want something to actually bring about real results in the long process of change. For families or individuals who come to a therapy session, we tell them it's incredibly important to distinguish between strong processes and steady processes. When we say strong, it means a sudden blow. A strong action is often a warning or a specific punishment. Strong is raising your voice, strong is shouting. Steady is like that drop of water that falls at the same time, in the same place, always little by little, and in the end brings about change. Not through force, or as Pope Francis would say, not in a proselytizing way, but through testimony. Bearing witness and building that culture that springs from the gospel is a slow, steady process, which must sink in deeply, profoundly, and must be global. This term is now confused because we understand global in the digital sense, as if we could be everywhere at the same time and in the same way, that people can see us, that we can hear each other. Global means all people and everything that concerns the person. Father Plancart approached the mission in an integral and harmonious way. What matters to the gospel and to the evangelizer, what matters to Jesus, is all people, every single one, all of them, as Pope Francis said. And we care about everything that matters to the person. No one and nothing is excluded. We are deeply committed to truly understanding how, in a tolerant and compassionate way, we can stand in firm solidarity, following the profound example set by Jesus with those individuals whom society has often overlooked or abandoned. We are open to the signs of the times, to those seeds of the word that exist in people who think differently, in those who express themselves differently, or in those who no longer want to listen to the gospel and no longer live according to the values that we live by and have made our own culture. Now we have to seek out new languages, which are digital, new methods that are process-oriented, that are about closeness, and that are new forms of communication. These digital languages, for example, lead us to understand that this process of new evangelization means for us that inculturation is slow, profound, and global. Global means that everyone matters to us, and everything that affects the lives of all people matters to us. If the evangelization that began with Jesus Christ among us, that became expansive with the spirit of Pentecost, has been a process throughout history of inculturation in a slow, profound, and difficult way, it is absolutely essential that we never allow ourselves to forget that the new evangelization and the gospel proclaimed to the complex landscape of our modern society and contemporary culture, a culture that Jose Antonio Plancart also presents to us in the mission we call postmodern, or to the contemporary world, to the children and young people of today who live and experience a vast array of diverse thoughts, perspectives, and unique behaviors that we ourselves have not experienced, makes us, the evangelizers of the new evangelization, those of us who want to begin a deliberate, steady, and deeply profound spiritual process of instilling the eternal values of Jesus Christ in children and young people, in the specific way of Jose Antonio Plancart, always remaining attentive to the signs of the times and to what today's challenges and the urgent demands of the present world require of us. That's why I suggest that, in order to follow up individually, positively, and in a transformative way, by reviewing our actions as we set out to do in the previous topic, you take into account these activities I'm proposing to help you go deeper, to develop, and to complement a bit what I wanted to share with you in this first topic, where we have tried to define the terms new evangelization and inculturation based on the processes of evangelization that began with Jesus Christ incarnate among us, but also those that were carried out and shared expansively from Pentecost to the farthest corners of the earth. For now, I suggest that individually, you look for an example of how the church enculturated the gospel in other times, analyze history of it, and see if you can find in your family, cultural environment, or neighborhood any example of how the gospel of Jesus Christ became part of the culture in past eras. And second, what difficulties were faced and how they were resolved in those times. I invite you to share this at another time, for example, with the people you met with last time, and to discover and reflect on what difficulties and challenges you see in inculturating the gospel among the poor, among young people, among those who are distant, and among families. And I invite you to broaden this question that the text poses to us and apply it to the seeds of the word, to the signs of the times that we see in the families who come to our educational institutions, the young people and children who come to our schools. What do we observe in them that is just beginning, that is starting, and that we need to discover so that we can find, as it says in the second part of this group activity, some proposals for each of us to discover those processes of inculturation in our children and young people or in our school environment. An evaluation for you, which you can share with the group, is what attitudes should I develop as an evangelizer or as a member of the Guadalupan Plancardian culture in order to enculturate the gospel in my school and my environment? Well, thank you very much. See you next time.